It's time for the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner. Live from Lee's Photography in downtown Ottumwa. Here's your host, Jason Van Arkel.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and streaming live the video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. It is our third week of the season, and once again, we're ready to break down everything that's going to happen for you coming up tomorrow night in high school football. And as we always do, we'll start the show with the schedule coming up tomorrow night. Ottumwa High is back out on the road. The Bulldogs travel to Newton. That'll be a 7 o'clock kick up at H.A. Lynn Stadium, Bulldogs and Cardinals. You'll hear that game right here on KBIZ. You'll see that game right here, same video stream tomorrow night at AttumwaRadioSports.com. The Davis County Mustangs are on the road for the first time this season. They will travel to Van Buren. We've got a matchup of two of our area teams. Mustangs taking on the Warriors. Both teams 0-2, looking for their first wins of the season. You'll be able to watch the game on AttumwaRadioSports.com. That is the Davis County broadcast. Or if you want to listen to the Van Buren broadcast, that'll be on 92.7 KTWA. The Pekin football team at home for the first time this season. You remember 2 weeks ago their first home game had to be moved to Ottumwa because of some damage to the stadium. They've got Tom Stonefield ready to go, and Pekin will host Mediapolis tomorrow night at 7. You'll hear that game on 101.5 KISS FM. And the Centerville Big Reds play at home for the first time this season. They welcome Knoxville. Centerville trying to get to 3-0 on the season. You'll hear that game tomorrow night on 97.7 Tom FM. All those kickoffs at either 7 or 7:30. Other area matchups tomorrow night, Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont back and home. They're taking on Sheraton. A matchup of two area teams, Sigourney Keota, they're 2-0. They travel to face 0-2 Albia. And a battle of 3A squads as Oskaloosa hits the road to take on Fairfield, the Indians and the Trojans. We'll play football tomorrow night at the Trojans' home stadium as Fairfield looks for its second win of the season. And Fairfield looking for win number 1, Oskaloosa looking for win number 2. So those are the area matchups coming up tomorrow night in high school football. We will take a 90-second timeout right here. When we return, we will sit down and chat with Ottumwa High head coach Brian Goodwin, and the captains tonight are Tanner Holman, Kai Glosser, Andrew Cole, and Dominic Delahoy. We'll talk to Tanner, Kai, and Coach Goodwin in our first segment. After this timeout, it is the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner here on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
Are you looking for someone to capture the special moments in life, such as senior photos, weddings, family portraits, baby pictures, or even your furry friends? Look no further than Lee's Photography in Ottumwa to schedule your appointment. Brian, Connie, and the staff at Lee's Photography have the knowledge and experience to capture your special moments and make your vision come to life. Visit them on Facebook to see the range of their work. Lee's Photography on East 2nd Street, across from the Courier in Ottumwa, for all your all-around photography needs. Welcome back to the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
And we continue on the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner, live from Lee's Photography in downtown Ottumwa, here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and the live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. Jason Van Arkel joined now by Ottumwa High head football coach Brian Goodwin, as well as offensive lineman Tanner Holman and running back Kai Glosser. Coach, last week you take on Marshalltown, a team that really had handed it to you the year before. This season, you acquitted yourselves much better. You've got the lead in the second half, just could not hold on to it, and you fall 26-14. I looked up the rushing numbers. I don't necessarily need to repeat what Marshalltown did here, but it was a lot more than you would like to have given up. And it's easy to say, oh, they couldn't stop the run. But as you went back and looked at the video of that game, kind of went over it again, what specifically could you show your defense and say, okay, here's what went wrong, and here's what we need to do to get better?
Well, defensively, we really focused on tackling this week. During our fundamental drills and things like that, emphasize a tackling drill each day. And I think tackling was one of the takeaways from last Friday night that we needed to definitely improve on.
Yeah, despite having issues on both sides of the ball because you didn't move the ball as well as you would have liked either, you had the lead in the second half, and part of that was thanks to that great play by Zach Ross. Strips the football, gets it out, nearly takes it in himself, sets up the touchdown. You take the lead, and then things didn't quite go your way from there, but you had a lot of positives in the game. What positives did you take out of the game last week?
Well, we took the main positive was that we competed very well on both sides of the football. Kids were in a tough football game, competed right up to the end, the very last play, and that's basically our takeaway each week. Is the one thing that we ask for them is to compete as hard as they can on every play, and I think they did that. And moving forward, that's going to turn us around a little bit on the scoreboard, I would hope.
Obviously, it was a very physical game. You told me before we went on that Marshalltown at one point called 23 runs in a row. They wanted to pound the ball, and I know you want to run the ball and be tough. So a very physical game, and the kids are moving a little slow, a little dinged up after the game. Not too much, I don't think, in the way of injuries, but talk about kind of the health situation as you get ready for Week 3.
Well, going into Friday night, we got a couple different starters due to some illnesses. Nothing football-related injuries, but we had a little bit of illness going through the team, and some kids had to stay home from school and miss school and practice. And we prepared the guys behind them on the depth chart, and they're going to get the start this Friday night. As of right now, everybody seems to be back with good health and working hard to get back in and understand what our plan is for the week.
A little bit of a shuffle on the defensive line. We're going to see John David Springer at nose for the first time this season. Talk about what he brings to the table.
Well, he's a real strong kid. He really loves working out in the weight room. He's been with our football program, the entire time, since he was in 7th grade, and just works out extremely hard in the weight room. Runs, every single conditioning sprint that we have, and just a tough, hard-nosed kid. And he'll get his shot by just working hard and being there and doing the things it takes to be successful.
And then Quentin Bishop, the senior, he's been a starting linebacker. You had to move him to play some offensive line in the opener where he'd played in previous seasons. Now on the depth chart, he's over at the defensive end spot. Talk about kind of the value that a guy like that has, who's versatile, that you can move him around from spot to spot and know you're going to get something quality out of him.
Yeah, well, Q is very versatile. He started off the season. Well, he played his entire career as an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, and then he's way undersized for those two positions. And we've got a young sophomore kid, Austin Fountain, that has been really playing well at the sophomore level and helping us out on Friday nights with the special teams, made a lot of good plays on kickoff and punt and things like that. So we're going to give him a start at will linebacker and just kind of moving people around a little bit so we can go full 2 platoon this week and adjust our practice schedule just a little bit so we could do that. We moved Q to defensive end, which he's very familiar with. He's played it, his entire career, and just getting more kids involved, more of our athletes on the field at the same time to make plays.
And I wanted to talk a little bit more about Austin Fountain. It's a name that we haven't heard at the varsity level before, but I remember, I know in the opener I saw him make a big play on special teams. He's had a few of those. What qualities does he bring, and how impressive has he been that he's gotten your attention? You're saying, okay, I'm going to pull him off the sophomore team and make him one of the starters on the varsity team.
Well, he's a tall, lanky, real fast kid. He looks the part at linebacker, and he's got a motor that you can't even turn off. He just, in practice, he upsets everybody because he's just flying around all the time. It's what we're looking for when he's running scout team for us. And it doesn't matter if it's kickoff, punt, PAT. He's going as hard as he can. One night he ran sprints with the sophomores, came down, finished up practice with the varsity, and ended up running the same conditioning drill again. So he's just that kind of kid that, didn't even ask, do I need to do this? Just falls in and works as hard as he can.
All right, coming up in our next segment, we will start breaking down taking on Newton next week. But before we get to that, let's turn to the players we have. Tanner Holman, center, offensive lineman, has been playing both ways, and you played both ways last Friday night. As I talked about with Coach Goodman, very physical game, especially for someone like you who's in on the line so much. From your perspective, can you describe just what that is like for a guy, and you talked to me before the season, you couldn't wait to play physical games. You couldn't wait to hit people. What's it like to play 4 quarters like that, and how do you feel afterwards?
Well, I think we've prepared ourselves through the summer and into the fall to get ready for this, and I've felt ready just the same way that I've always been taught as of now, and I just felt fine, just like I was playing a regular game. It
doesn't matter how many times that you get hit or they hit or you hit them, you just keep coming back for more. Obviously, did not move the ball last week as well as the week before, not as well as you wanted to, certainly. From your perspective down there on the O-line, what would you like to do better as a unit, not just yourself, as a whole unit? What would you like to see you guys do better this week than you guys did a week ago?
I feel like we need to just be a little more physical than we were. I think we knew what we were doing at times, but we were showing up just not prepared for what we needed to do against these guys. I think we took what we did against Burlington and thought that's what it'd be, the same game, and it really wasn't, but we're prepared this week and we'll be just fine.
Now you come off that game and a little sore, a little banged up, and then you watch the video, and then you get back to practice. Did you feel like you guys maybe had a chip on your shoulder to come back to practice saying, okay, we got work to do, we know we got another tough game coming up Friday night at Newton? You guys feel like you have something to prove now?
Yeah, we really just forgot what happened last week, and we're moving on to our next week, and we're going to go 1-0 this week.
I think I'm talking to Bill Belichick right here. We're on to Newton here. So, Tanner, I'm going to ask you to hand the headset over to Kai Glosser as we have to do every week, kind of share the microphone here. Kai, again, one of the captains this week, member of the Leadership Council and the starting tailback. And Kai, kind of the same question that I asked Tanner about improving from last week to this week. From your perspective in the backfield, what would you like to see the offense do better, maybe you yourself do better this week than you did last week, so you can have a better result on the field?
Oh, just like Tanner was saying, just be more physical and hit the gaps and just keep going and hit them as hard as we can. And really just play more physical than Newton, and play harder than Newton, and we should win that game.
And as I mentioned, being a captain this week and a member of the Leadership Council this season, I know you guys went into that game with high hopes, and the scoreboard doesn't show what you wanted it to show at the end of the game. So how does this team, maybe a different version of what I asked Tanner about come back with a chip on your shoulder, how do you come back this week and kind of keep your confidence up after things didn't go your way the last week?
Just start refreshed, just start the new week, trying to go 1-0 and just work our butts off in practice and go hard, and that's what we did this week.
And one more question for you. You and Gage Cole have had about, I think, exactly the same number of carries this season, and obviously you're the two primary options in the backfield. I'm sure you guys, maybe it's a friendly competition, but I'm sure you guys spend a lot of time encouraging each other as well.
Yeah, we both run really hard, and we want to get to the end zone, and it's kind of a competition we got going on, but we don't really talk about it. We just go out there and do it.
That's Kai Glosser, the starting tailback, starting center Tanner Holman, and Ottumwa High head coach Brian Goodman, and he'll stay with us in our next segment, and then we'll bring in safety Andrew Cole and cornerback Dominic Delahoy will join us in our next segment here on the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner. We'll continue talking Ottumwa football after this on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
Are you looking for someone to capture the special moments in life, such as senior photos, weddings, family portraits, baby pictures, or even your furry friends? Look no further than Lee's Photography in Ottumwa to schedule your appointment. Brian, Connie, and the staff at Lee's Photography have the knowledge and experience to capture your special moments and make your vision come to life. Visit them on Facebook to see the range of their work. Lee's Photography on East 2nd Street, across from the Courier in Ottumwa, for all your all-around photography needs.
As a National Guard or Reserve member, you served your country. Now let VA serve you.
I wouldn't be here today as a successful woman without the help that I received.
Your VA honors your service by providing a wide range of veterans benefits. From home loans to job training, VA benefits can help with some of life's toughest challenges.
What's important about VA benefits is they don't just touch you as an individual. They can touch your parents, maybe your grandparents, your child.
Go to benefits.va.gov/guardreserve to learn more. including how to apply online using eBenefits.
I just finished a master's degree recently, and now I'm working on another degree as well. So the military made that all possible. My veterans benefits made that all possible.
No matter what the time is, apply for your benefits. You earn them. VA is ready to help you.
Achieve your next mission. Learn about and apply for your VA benefits today.
Welcome back to the Lease Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
And the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner continues here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and the live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. Jason Van Arkel with you again from Lee's Photography in downtown Ottumwa. Still have Ottumwa High head coach Brian Goodvin with us, and now we're joined by cornerback Dominic Delahoy and safety Andrew Cole. Coach, we'll come back to you, and let's start talking about Newton. Last year's game, obviously a tough one at home. They piled up a bunch of yards on the ground. They win the game 35-14. Obviously they're going to run the same stuff. Their coach Ed Ergenbright has run the same system for a long time. And they're 1-1 this season, a close loss to a defending state champion in PCM, a 1-point loss, and then a 6-point win over Boone last week. When you take a look at them on video, what do you see from them? You were telling me before we went on that they run an offense that's unique to them.
Yeah, they run a very unique offense. Like a little rocket toss and counter off of that, and they don't run a lot of different plays, but they are very effective and execute what they do well. They've been doing it for a number of years. Their coaching staff is, obviously really good at teaching that, and they're extremely effective with their running game.
On the defensive side of the ball, they played pretty well in the win over Boone, and went back and looked at the stats. They gave up some passing yards, but I think there were 3 long pass plays they gave up in that game. And other than that, they didn't give up much of anything at all. And probably be fair to say that you're going to need your offense to be executing at high level tomorrow night to move the ball, especially since you're playing on the road.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to need to obviously execute, take care of the football. Watching film on them on their first 2 games, they've played against 2 spread-type offenses. So it's a completely different look for them. And as well, we don't really, get a good idea of how they're going to line up against us other than looking at past film. And fortunately for us, their coaching staff's been intact for a number of years, and they don't do it, they know what they want to do. They do it well. And so we pretty much know where they're going to be. We just need to execute.
You talk about looking at past film, and you can go back and look at last year's game that we played against them. Is there a whole lot of value to that? And they do have some players back. Is there a lot of value to looking at last year, or does enough change from one year to the next that it doesn't mean as much?
I use last year's film quite a bit. With Newton, you can go back, 3, 4, 5 years and take a look at what they've been doing. Offensively, it's been the same. Coach Curran is, new to our staff this year, and he coached against Newton many, many times when he was a few years ago when he was on the varsity staff, and it came back to him like old hat. It's just something that they have gotten good at. They execute it well, and they need to, and we need to figure out how we're going to stop it. And I think we got a good game plan going in to do that.
Of course, you are going on the road, and that's usually tougher than playing at home, but your kids already have a road win under their belt this season, and I got to imagine that if nothing else, it gives the kids a big confidence boost because they know they can get on the bus and ride over an hour, get off, get the equipment, hit the field, play their best game, beat somebody, and come home. They've already got that experience. So, like I said, if nothing else, your kids are going to have confidence.
Yeah, I think they'll have a lot of confidence. They got a routine, and, being the 3rd week of the season, they understand all of our travel plans and all of our pregame stuff. So, it just doesn't matter if we're home, away, field's the same size, and we just go out and execute and do well.
Let's turn now to cornerback Dominic Delahoy, who's joining us on the show for the first time this season. So welcome to the show, Dominic. I'll ask you a football question first. You're one of the cornerbacks. You're out there on an island, you and Josh Johnson on the other side. And so far, you've been going up against teams that primarily want to run the ball. They don't throw the ball very much. Marshalltown didn't. Newton's not going to. Burlington didn't throw it very much. So describe what your responsibilities are as a cornerback in terms of run support, because we see the linemen, we see the linebackers. What's your job when a team's running the ball like the teams that you've faced have been doing?
Well, my job is to, not let them get outside. And if they do get outside, just tackle them.
Well, it's easy enough to say. And then I want to ask you about, and I've been asking everybody as they've come through here, about being on the Leadership Council, because that's new this year. You're a captain this week, but on the Leadership Council for the season. What impact do you think the Leadership Council is having on the team this season? How much of a change has that made?
Pretty big change. We have a bunch of guys in the leadership that's getting on our team and getting them to the workouts in the summer and getting them to the practices and getting them ready for the season.
Now, and being on the Leadership Council again, and I kind of asked Kai the same question. You come off a game like last week, it's a tough loss, you had a chance, couldn't hang on to the lead. You want to get back and keep that confidence up. What role does the Leadership Council, do you guys play in trying to make sure everybody's still, not walking around with their heads down, they're ready to go this week?
We just tell them, just forget about last week, we're on to next week.
And we'll move on down to Andrew Colson. We want to hand the microphone down there. And Andrew, this is his second appearance on the show. Had his brother Gage on last week. And, we've looked at bouncing back from last week a few different ways. I've tried to ask that question a couple different ways now. But let me start with this. You get back out for that first practice after the loss. You've watched the film. Now you're back out on the field. Was there a different intensity maybe to that practice, like everybody's not hanging their heads, but they're I don't want to use a term I can't use on the radio, but ticked off. You guys a little ticked off. You have something to prove.
A little bit. We try and forget like all the bad stuff, but you want to make sure you're working hard so it doesn't happen again next week.
And then front to back, and you've got the perspective of being the safety, and I know you roam all over the field. You make plays all over the field. You start out in the back, so you've kind of got that perspective. But just front to back, all 11 guys on the defense, what needs to happen tomorrow night for you guys to have more success defensively than you did a week ago?
We just need to make sure our tackling is good. We've been working on that a lot this week. Just make sure we get people down.
All right, Ottumwa is at Newton tomorrow night, 7 o'clock kick. There's no freshman game beforehand. It's just a varsity game at 7 o'clock. And it's our first trip to Newton, and we were there a few years ago, right?
Right, yeah. We played them, we played them every year here for the last 4 to 6 years, so about every other year we're making a trip to Newton.
But you're right. But I believe that when we were on that cycle 2 years ago, wasn't it, we were at their place and then we were home and then we were home again last year?
That could be. Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
So it's been a few years since we've been up there. And the last time we went up there, we didn't expect them to be very good, but they broke out an offensive attack I don't think we expected. So hopefully this year we know them a lot better now. Of course, they know us too, but hopefully this year will be much improved.
Yeah, that's the plan. Like I said before, they don't change much from year to year. We know what we've got to do. The kids have been preparing really hard over the course of the week, and hopefully we can go 1-0 this week.
That would be the plan. Now, Ottumwa at Newton again, Friday night, 7 o'clock. Pregame show at 6:45 right here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and the video stream right here. This exact same stream you're watching right now, if you're watching, OttumwaRadioSports.com is the place to find it. I want to thank Ottumwa High head coach Brian Goodvin, Dominic Delahoy, Andrew Cole, Kai Glosser, Tanner Holman. Thanks, guys, for coming on. Look forward to having everybody, all the captains, everybody in the Leadership Council kind of cycling through here throughout the season. Coming up after this break, we will switch gears and talk Cardinal football. The Comets are 3-0. They have a bye this week. They're coming off a big road win last Thursday over Wayne. They went to Wayne and came with Corydon. That's the town I was trying to think of, Corydon. They went to Corydon and picked up the win. So head coach Landon Miller will join us, and he's bringing a couple players this week, or so he says. Hopefully they'll walk through the door here momentarily. So we'll take a timeout and return with more of the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
Are you looking for someone to capture the special moments in life, such as senior photos, weddings, family portraits, baby pictures, or even your furry friends? Look no further than Lee's Photography in Ottumwa to schedule your appointment. Brian, Connie, and the staff at Lee's Photography have the knowledge and experience to capture your special moments and make your vision come to life. Visit them on Facebook to see the range of their work. Lee's Photography on East 2nd Street, across from the Courier in Ottumwa, for all your all-around photography needs. Welcome back to the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network. Welcome back.
0.7 FM KBIZ, the live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. Expecting to be joined momentarily by Cardinal head coach Landon Miller. And he was planning on bringing a couple of players this week, a couple of his seniors, linemen Connor Mason and Jarrett Griner. And as we wait for them to arrive, we can tell you that Cardinal, again, a big road win last week, 38-14 over Wayne, a Wayne team that a year ago they surprised and knocked them off by 14 points. And when we talked to Coach Miller last week, he said he knew that Wayne was kind of gunning for Cardinal this year, and they knew they were walking into a bit of a hornet's nest. They took a couple of early blows. Wayne had 14 points early, but then Cardinal shut them down the rest of the way. Ended up pulling away and beating them by more than they beat them last year, 38-14. So Cardinal got to 3-0. Cardinal does not play this week. Again, the reason for that is that they were supposed to play Grandview Christian when the schedules were set, and they're 2-year cycles on the schedule. So when the 2018 and 2019 schedules were set, Grandview Christian was slotted in this week against Cardinal. Well, Grandview Christian decided last winter that they would not have football this season. That took a game away from Cardinal. They eventually scheduled that week 0 game against Columbus, which they won 38-0. And so the benefit of having played a week early is that Cardinal ends up with a bye this week. That could be very, very beneficial for them. They'll get to rest some of their injured players, get some guys healthy, be able to maybe get some younger guys some extra work in practice. In the meantime, they'll be very fresh when they play North Mahaska next week, and still pretty fresh when they get into their district schedule in 2 weeks when they're looking at playing Pekin to open district play the week after next. But Cardinal, again, on a bye. They're 3-0, and I now see head coach Landon Miller making his way in here. Come on in and have a seat, Coach. Water's fine. Actually, let me get you a water here. Gotta love live radio, live TV. Make sure to keep the palate quenched. And Cardinal head coach Landon Miller, again, coming off a 38-14 win. And I just talked about it a little bit here as you were coming in, but we'll mention it again. A week ago, you talked about having to go on the road, not only face a Wayne team that people think were pretty good, but a team that was gunning for you after the result the year before.
Yeah.
A couple of early scores for them, but you guys were resilient. You fought back. And so how was your team able to respond? Because not only do you fight back at them, you end up pulling away and winning by 24 points.
Yeah, it's a good team that we played. They're very physical. It's kind of the brand of football that they like to play. So, you know, we were ready to go, but they punched us in the mouth. And they got some really good athletes, and Chase Kiefer and Dayton Jacobson, and we were trading blows there for a little while. And you know, we made some adjustments on defense and made some adjustments on offense, and we were able to exploit them. You know, that's an offense that doesn't want. You know, they want to go down the field methodically, and if you can make an offense like that shoot themselves in the foot, which is it's really hard to sustain a drive in high school, you know, 10 to 12 plays. So that was kind of our game plan going in, is make them sustain the drive and earn it. We were able to do that in the second, third, and fourth quarter, and so we shut them out in those 3 quarters, and we had some guys step up too offensively.
You talk about making them have the long, sustained drives, forcing them into mistakes. I think you forced 4 turnovers in that game. I believe you had 6 the week before. And we kind of talked about that last week, how turnovers are, they can be a product of luck, but also a product of preparation. And again, it speaks to how prepared you guys are. You put yourselves in the right positions, and when the other team made a mistake, you capitalize just about every time again.
Yeah, that's our philosophy. When you play a style of offense that we do, you know, when we're a spread offense, we have multiple tempos. We like to put the ball in the air and give what the defense is and take what the defense is going to give us. When you play that style of offense in high school, you have to have a defense to match it. And so what we started doing even last year was we have to be opportunistic. We have to get takeaways, and it starts in practice, and we have to emphasize it. And we have a motto on our staff is you're going to get what you emphasize. And so we've tried to highlight the 4 or 5 things that we really want to emphasize, and it's shown out. Tackling, running to the football, takeaways. Those are things that last year we really started preaching, and it's shown up in our defense.
I want to talk about Griffin Griner. We named him. In fact, today, as a matter of fact, we do Athlete of the Week awards on Thursdays, and he's the KTWA Athlete of the Week. 5 receptions, 3 for touchdowns, 223 yards. Yeah. That's over 44 yards a catch. I was going to make a Randy Moss comparison, but Moss never really put up numbers like that. Yeah. How does any kid at this level do that? And what allows, again, we're talking about another kid who's just a sophomore. What allows him to have that special of a night?
Well, I think, first of all, we have a pretty talented group on offense, starting with the offensive line, and then working through, the running backs and Maddox at quarterback, and then we have some receivers that are talented too. He's a really talented kid, and Coach Mason, our offensive coordinator, it puts him in really good spots. And again, they were playing us in a way last week where he was able to go off. They were playing us tight. We were able to get him vertical, and Maddox put the ball where he could catch it, and he made some plays.
And then when Griffin wasn't basically scoring at will out there, Gabe Reyes is averaging nearly 10 yards a carry. And, I've talked to a lot of coaches, and they say, we want to run to set up the pass, or we want to pass to set up the run. But whichever way you look at it, you guys have balance on offense, and that makes you so hard to prepare for because, we're going to take Maddox, or we're going to take the receivers away. Well, then Gabe's running over everybody. Well, we're going to stack the box, throw over the top, and suddenly Griner's got 20 yards and 3 touchdowns. You've been developing this offense, but what has allowed it to be as successful as it's been through the first 3 games?
Well, I think any offense that you run, it starts up front. Your guys have to be experienced. Offensive line, in my opinion, is probably the hardest position to play. It's so technical on both sides of the ball. And you have to be a strong kid, and you have to be a tough kid because you're hitting someone every single play. And so our offensive line has been together since I've gotten here. A lot of guys who have played a lot of games for me. And so they get it, and every week they're getting better. And to put a offense together in high school that can run it and pass it, that's really hard for an offensive line. You're usually one-dimensional, and you try to get good at that thing. And we've challenged our kids since they're seniors to be good at both. And it showed this week because there were times we had to protect Maddox. They were bringing 8 guys at us, and there were times that we wanted to run the ball, and he opened up some holes there in the second half.
I know we'll talk a little bit more about the linemen in a moment. You've got 2 of them here. We'll bring them on in a moment. I wanted to ask you 2 more quick questions. Assess Maddox Jones's play. It's easy for me to say.
Yeah.
Throws for nearly 250 yards last week, 3 touchdowns, only 50% on the completions, and he threw his first pick. Maybe I'm nitpicking here. Obviously, he went 38-14. But is that just a case of sometimes having to remember that for all his talent, he's still just a sophomore sometimes?
Yeah, just a sophomore. In every game, he's learning a lot. In this game, they brought a lot of bullets. They brought a lot of linebackers at him. And this game, what he needed to learn was get the ball out quick. And he's been helped a lot by our offensive line, being able to sit back there and make a read and make a throw. And in this game, they weren't going to allow it. They were giving us something, but they're also taking something away. And so he had to get the ball off quick. He took a bunch of sacks that he probably didn't need to, forced the ball that one time he didn't have to. But at the end of the day, he is a really talented kid. He's coachable. He listens. He's got a live arm, likes of which you can't coach. It's just he has it. He's only going to get better every game.
And then finally, you have a bye week. High school teams don't get bye weeks. So the college coaches and the pro coaches live for the bye week.
Yeah.
You've got a bye week. How beneficial can this be for your team?
Well, I think, in high school when you don't have it very often, you have to have a couple different plans going in. You can't say that this is how you always play it, in my opinion. And so this week we had a couple plans. We had Plan A and Plan B. And so as we went into our pregame coaching sessions this weekend, we thought we were going to go with Plan A, but as the week progressed, we went with Plan B. And some guys we had to play Wayne on Monday again as a JV game, and as a school our size, a lot of guys, that play on Fridays play in that. and they're a physical team. So we knew we had some bumps and bruises. So we went with a Plan B approach where it was a nice week to get some mental things done, to get some film in, to get the guys to do some walkthrough stuff, and then get them healthy. That's the biggest thing, is to get them healthy, because we got a 6-game stretch here that's going to be tough. Our district, arguably, in my opinion, is the toughest in Class A. I would guess there's 3 teams that come out of that in the playoffs, and so for us, we've got to be healthy going into those games. And this week was nice for us to dial it back a little bit, get the guys focused on getting rested.
All right, we want to talk more linemen. We've got 2 of Cardinals linemen here. Guys, if you kind of come around this way so we don't cut in front of the camera.
And I brought today Connor Mason and Brody Adam. One of them Jarrett Greiner couldn't make it today, but Brody Adams, another lineman for us. So I'll just quickly introduce them if that's okay.
Yeah,
with
go
you.
ahead, because I'm still learning some of the faces.
Yeah, no, you're all right. And I thought this was cool. One thing I love about what you guys are doing is these are the guys that put in the work. I get to be on these type of things and talk to the media, but they're the ones that have to grind through practice. And so Connor's been a 3-year starter for me, offensively and defensively. This year he's playing nose guard, and he's playing some tackle for us on offense. Brody played for me as a sophomore, had an injury, didn't play for me as a junior, and then came back out and has been really, really a key point in our offense, being able to move the ball, and he plays center for us and plays some middle linebacker. And one thing I'm proud of Brody about is, he's sitting behind Gabe Reyes at middle linebacker. Gabe had strep throat, last week, and so we kept him on the offensive side. Brody came in and played middle backer for us and played really, really, really well. So.
All right, Brody, if you could pick up the headset there, we'll start with you. Since you play center, we'll do an offensive question or 2 here. And, you've been, as you said, you've been in this program for a few years. You didn't play last year. You're back this year. But you saw how it's been and how this program has grown, and now you look at all the talent. You got a sophomore lining up behind you at quarterback, sophomores out wide, but a senior running back as well. So it's kind of a mix. But talk about how far this program has come since you were a sophomore. Are you maybe kind of amazed at how much this program has grown?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd say my freshman year and sophomore year, we probably had about 19 guys, 18, and we didn't have very many substitutions. And to look at it this year, we started our roster out with 34 people. That was pretty amazing, pretty big growth, and it just the physical aspect was in the weight room over the summer just helped us out plenty.
Playing with the skill positions that you have with the Maddox Jones, Griffin Greiner, Gabe Reyes. And again, you guys, as Coach has been saying, every time I ask him about how a skill player does, he talks about the line and how they're the foundation for everything. So, but what is it like to be able to block for these guys, to do your job and know those guys are so talented that they're getting things done behind you and then eventually in front of you?
Well, I'd say the line is basically my brothers. We work together, we communicate on the line, and it helps us out, block our guys, and we just hope and pray, and we know that Griffin, Maddox, Gabe, or anybody would make a play.
And I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to ask Connor this as well in a moment. But last year, Cardinal won all of its non-district games, then got to district play, and it didn't go so well. And I know that you still have North Mahaska a week from tomorrow, so you're not focused on any of those district foes yet. But do you feel like you guys are building up to a point that when you get to district play, you'll be ready this year?
Definitely. I'd say we got a really solid defense, and we got a really good solid offense. We got a lot of playmakers. We got a good line. We just hope we can get going and keep the motivation going.
All right, that's Brody Adam, and I'll ask you to hand the headset over to Connor Mason, senior nose guard, and also plays some on the offensive line. So we'll go with the defensive question first, because I've been talking a lot about the offense because they put up the big numbers, they make the plays, but on the defensive side of the ball. Just go to last week. You take on Wayne. Wayne wanted that game after what happened the year before. They wanted to prove something. They came out and kind of hit you in the mouth early. What allowed you guys to hang in there and kind of turn the tide of the game and shut them down the rest of the way after they had a couple of early scores?
I think we just had to stay, together as a team and just stop the run. That's all they have. They can't really pass the ball. Just stop the run. We practiced that all week.
And then And I asked Brody the same thing. You've been in this program now for 4 years. You've seen some ups. You've seen some winning streaks. You've seen some losing streaks. It would appear to me that this team is kind of elevating itself above where it's been before. And Brody talked about you've got greater numbers out there, more guys that can play, obviously some really talented younger guys. How good can this team be, and do you think you guys are progressing to the point where when you get to those tough district foes, you're going to be more ready than you were a year ago?
Yeah, definitely. I think it all just comes down to, effort and how physical we are. The old Cardinal team would just hang their head when we're down by 2 touchdowns. As you've seen, last Friday, that didn't happen. Just physicality.
And then finally, you got a bye week this week. What are you going to do tomorrow? You don't have a football game to play. What are you going to do?
Actually, Coach is being a very generous guy, and we're just doing some mental work, classroom work, film, stuff like that. And then we're going to go practice with our homecoming team, like Powder Puff and Ironman volleyball.
And then one last question. I know the answer. Brody doesn't even need the headset to answer this because he's wearing the sweatshirt. But Cy-Hawk pick, Iowa or Iowa State?
Iowa.
Coach?
I'm a Husker guy myself.
A Husker guy.
So,
I used to work in Nebraska.
I know. So I gotta stay partial on that end of it. But at this point, I take a lot of gruff from my Hawkeye buddies because the Hawkeyes have got the Huskers in the last 4 or 5 years. So, but I'll probably go out on a limb and say I'm probably a Cyclone guy this weekend.
Okay. Well, we got two Hawkeyes, 1 Cyclone. I forgot to ask the Ottumwa guys. I don't have to ask our next guest, Davis County head coach Kent Anderson, because he wore the Cardinal in gold. So I won't need to ask him that question. But again, want to thank Cardinal head coach Landon Miller as well as Connor Mason and Brody Adam. Cardinal 3-0 on a bye this week. They'll take on North Mahaska next week. We'll take a timeout, and then Davis County head coach Kent Anderson is here to preview his team's game against Van Buren. That's coming your way next. The Lee's Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
Are you looking for someone to capture the special moments in life, such as senior photos, weddings, family portraits, baby pictures, or even your furry friends? Look no further than Lee's Photography in Ottumwa to schedule your appointment. Brian, Connie, and the staff at Lee's Photography have the knowledge and experience to capture your special moments and make your vision come to life. Visit them on Facebook to see the range of their work. Lee's Photography on East 2nd Street, across from the Courier in Ottumwa, for all your all-around photography needs.
As a National Guard or Reserve member, you served your country. Now let VA serve you.
I wouldn't be here today as a successful woman without the help that I received.
Your VA honors your service by providing a wide range of veterans benefits. From home loans to job training, VA benefits can help with some of life's toughest challenges.
What's important about VA benefits is they don't just touch you as an individual. They can touch your parents, maybe your grandparents, your child.
Go to benefits.va.gov/Guard Reserve to learn more, including how to apply online using eBenefits.
I just finished a master's degree recently, and now I'm working on another degree as well. So the military made that all possible. My veterans benefits made that all possible.
No matter what the time is, apply for your benefits. You earn them. VA is ready to help you.
Achieve your next mission. Learn about and apply for your VA benefits today.
Welcome back to the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
And we return for our final segment on the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ. Live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. Jason Van Arkel with you from Lee's Photography in downtown Ottumwa, and pleased to be joined by Davis County head coach Kent Anderson, whose team really, I thought fought well in the Pennant game against Centerville last Friday night. 38-21 the final, but you had the early lead, 7-0. You get that quick strike. Then they kind of take over for a while, but you get the interception, go down and score, and you're only down 6 at the half. So the last thing I asked you last week was, regardless of winning or losing, what it would take for you to walk off the field and think it was a successful night, and you said basically you wanted to see your team get better. I thought they were competitive. Do you think they got better?
They did. They got a lot better, and I think they're gaining some confidence too. We got better. We competed. Depth is still an issue. You can see where we get a little bit tired in the third quarter, and you get a physical team that runs the ball really well like Centerville. It started to wear on us, but we did get better. I was pleased with that.
We've talked a lot about how young your team is. Maybe we should be talking, especially after last week, about how much fight these kids seem to have. I just kind of spelled it out. You've got the early lead, then they score 3 times, but you find a way to get a takeaway, come back, you're within 6 at the half. And even though they kept pounding on you, and you knew they were going to do that, they're a really good team, senior-led team. But what does it say, the way the game went, what does that say about your kids' desire to just keep competing?
It says a lot about their character because, anybody can, swing away at the fence when you're leading by 10 runs and things like that. And we're fighting, we're scrapping, and we're establishing some things. I think we're establishing a sense of physicality. We're taking pride in being physical, and we talked about being physical out there and getting some licks in and trying to take that as our stamp of what we do on our game, and we want to be physical, and they've bought into that. So it really says a lot about their character, and it's not easy for anyone in any situation to fight when you're down, in particular when you're young kids. Sometimes the quick reward is very easy when you're fighting. You learn that characteristic as a young man or as a young person. I think it carries you out throughout your whole life, and I think they're learning some great lessons, and they're buying in.
You talk about being physical, and one thing we talked about at the beginning of the season was you were hoping your team would be able to stay healthy as possible through the course of the season. A couple games in now, and we'll get to the quarterback situation specifically in a moment, but in general, how's the health of your team after 2 weeks?
Knock on wood, we're pretty good. We have some little viruses going around right now, colds.
You know what? Coach Goodwin said that. Coach Miller said that. Everybody's dealing with it, it seems.
Yeah, it just must be just something around right now. But we're fighting through that a little bit. But otherwise, we're pretty good. We don't have anything really bad right now, bumps and bruises. And I always tell them you got to get calloused up. It takes you 2 or 3 weeks to callus up a little bit to get used to the impact of football. And right now we're pretty good. And they're fighting and they're working very hard.
Now, at quarterback situation, you start Caden Hill, throws the early touchdown pass. He didn't connect on any of the other passes, and then, and I'm talking to Ellis Kojo, our announcer on the video stream, and tells me Caden takes a pretty good shot, and you decide not to have him stay in a quarterback, kept playing defense. You bring back Carson Mater, who started week 1, and the number's a lot better, 11 of 18, 93 yards and a touchdown, but he throws 2 interceptions, and he has the fumble as well. Obviously, better performance, but ball security is still an issue. And I've seen, he sent us the depth chart. We know he's going to start tomorrow night. What can he do to improve the ball security aspect of the game?
Well, the 2 interceptions that he threw I thought were aggressive throws. And compare them to the interceptions the week before. They were sort of get rid of it throws. And I think these 2 interceptions, he was trying to make a play. We just had the ball on the inside shoulder on a nice fade that just missed, and I can live with that because he made a good decision. He went to the right place with the ball. He's aiming it a little bit, and he just needs to kind of pull it and just throw it. Throw through the man, not to the man. They're trying to lay it in there. The fumble thing was a high snap that bounced off his face mask. That's part of football. I wasn't concerned. We're in the luxury at that position to have 2 quarterbacks. We made the change. As the game was flowing on, if you think about what happened in your mind, Centerville was moving the ball, and Caden was playing both ways, and I could tell he was gassed. I could see it, and he kind of dinged his hand a little bit, and he's one of our better defenders, and I could see it happening on defense. And now we're losing quality at both ends. We're losing one of our best defenders, and we're losing some quality at quarterback, and it just made sense in that moment to bring Carson in fresh, and his first play was a throw. He was 7 of his first 8, and he led us to that touchdown. So I just thought it was the best for the team, and they know that. Carson and Caden handle it like men. You would have to practically kill Caden to get him out of the game because he will not take himself. He's a competitor, and he would give anything to be in there for the team. However, for the team, it was the best scenario. And all of a sudden, then Carson has the drive. We get a couple stops on defense because now Caden is fresh, and then Carson's fresh. So it just worked out better that way. And who knows that they'll both keep playing that, of course. But right now, Carson will start tomorrow, yes.
All right, you're taking on Van Buren. Well, before I get to that, I always try to highlight some other guys who had nice games, and the stats show that Clayton Smith had 6 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. That's a great yards per carry right there. Clay Collier, 6 catches for 47 yards, picked off a pass as well. So obviously those guys stepped up and played well. And then there were probably other guys that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, so I can't see it just looking at the stat sheet. But maybe tell me about a couple other guys who stepped up and really played. Not just played well in that game, but really improved from week 1 to week 2.
I mentioned him last week, Riley Heller, our tight end, defensive end, number 87. He's a force. He really is. He's 6'5", 220. He will play somewhere after high school if he wants to, and I think he wants to pursue that. He's all over the field. A lot of those little screens and stuff, and he had a couple catches. He does a great job. He's a good leader. Gavin McCall, number 4, he starts at tailback. He plays linebacker. He plays both ways. He plays a great game. He's just a football Johnny. He really is. He lives, eats, and breathes football. He did a great job. Clayton Smith, you mentioned. Clayton Garman, defensive end and an offensive lineman, plays both ways. And then I thought Colton Stremler, who's a senior left tackle for us, probably played his best game. He had to go up against a kid who's, 6'5" and has been recruited by UNI, and Colton fought. And that was sort of an inspiration for the entire team, because when they see him out there fighting, Colton's 6 foot 180, and he's going up against 6'5", 260, and Colton fought and actually had the guy on the ground a couple of times, and it inspired his teammates. And that's great. That's leadership, and that's what you want from a senior.
All right, you're going to Van Buren tomorrow. A year ago, you beat them at home 42-0. They've got a new coach this year. They've struggled 2 games. They're 0-2. You're 0-2. This seems like a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Anything you have to say to the kids about, hey, don't overlook this team even though they struggled, or is it the case you guys are 0-2, you're probably pretty hungry to get a win?
Yeah, not at all. And practice has probably been one of our better practices of the year. As I say, we're starting to get it. We're starting to click a little bit, and things are starting to gel. I'm sure that happens for everybody, but I can only talk about our team. There's none of that. We're hungry. We don't care who we play. It's just, if it was Centerville again, it'd be the same. It doesn't matter. The opponent, it's just a different opponent. We really try to focus on what we do. We need to get ourselves better, and the next opponent's up, we play as hard as we can.
And then it's your first road game of the year, and as we've talked about, you've got a lot of younger players. Kids are playing varsity for the first time. Is there any lesson, anything you try to say to them, try to pass on to them about what they need to know about playing on the road instead of playing at home?
It's a short drive, thankfully. However, I think sometimes as a coach and the team, you have better preparation on the road because you get them on the bus and you're there together all the way. Sometimes at home games, they're going to go after school. They're going to go somewhere before we meet, and guys are straggling all over town, and they go get something to eat here or there, or go to somebody's house, and they're doing something. And so I think the preparation's better. I get better preparation as a coach because I don't have to do the AD part and get everything ready for the game. So I have better preparation to coach. So sometimes I do like that. I do like the unity. I think there's a lot to be said about a bus ride. I really do. I think there's a lot, especially after a victory and even after a loss, there's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of talking and guys getting back in the back of the bus and say, we need to get better. And they'll come up and tap the coach on the shoulder. And there's something to be said about that atmosphere. And I know a lot of teams, there seems to be a culture, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but it seems to be a culture that kids don't ride home on the bus after the game, and we make them ride home on the bus because that's part of being a team. And that's where you grow as a team.
Absolutely. And I don't have a lot of high school playing experience. I was just on one team one year, but those bus rides, they were bonding experiences.
They are.
And I think everybody's better for it. Davis County head coach Kent Anderson, his team taking on Van Buren tomorrow night. Best of luck. I can't say I hope you win because, again, we carry Davis County and Van Buren, so we like both teams, but hopefully a good game. 2 teams will play hard, and hopefully nobody gets hurt, and hopefully both teams improve over the course of the game, and we've got something fun to talk about next week. So, again, Davis County head coach Kent Anderson. Coach, thanks for the time.
Thank you, Jason.
Again,
I appreciate
we'll see you
it.
next week. And as we wrap up this edition of the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner, again, want to remind you that we've got 5 teams on the air or on the video stream tomorrow night. Ottumwa's on the road at Newton. You'll watch that game here on the video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com or listen to it right here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ. The Davis County at Van Buren game. Davis County broadcast with Ellis Kojo live on the video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. Chris Arid has the Van Buren call on 92.7 KTWA. Pekin is at home for the first time this season, actual home game. They take on Mediapolis tomorrow night. Scott Frazee with the call on 101.5 KISS FM. And the Centerville Big Reds at home for the first time this season. We give you that game in conjunction with The Pitch. They're hosting Knoxville tomorrow night. You'll hear it on 97.7 Tom FM. For everybody here at Ottumwa Radio and the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network, for Corey Finch, our video producer, for Kyle back at the KBIZ studios, I'm Jason Van Arkel. Thank you for watching and listening to Lee's Photography Coach's Corner. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.